As our planet is continually getting warmer and warmer, people are becoming more aware that the burning of fossil fuels is directly causing this increase in temperature. But why exactly does burning these fuel sources cause so much warming? In this video, we will be looking into how these fossil fuels were formed and why burning these fuels in particular is so harmful to the environment. Now, before we get into how everything works, what exactly are fossil fuels? Fossil fuels are defined as a form of natural fuel, such as gas, oil, or coal, that is formed from the remains of living organisms in the geologic past. Now, most of these fuels come from plants that were living during the Carboniferous era, which was a period of time that lasted from 359 to 299 million years ago. According to National Geographic, the Carboniferous era was characterized by its lush, swampy forests, which later formed deposits of peat, which turned into massive stores of coal throughout time. Basically, the Carboniferous era had significantly more biomass in the form of plant life than we currently do today. Also, a quick side note, this era is also known as the Golden Age of Sharks because this is when a lot of shark-like animals started evolving closer to what we know sharks as today. Now, another piece of this puzzle that we have to look at is trees and other forms of plant life. We are all taught that trees produce the oxygen that we breathe, and the way in which they do this is through the process of photosynthesis. Photosynthesis is the process through which plants use sunlight to create their own food, using carbon dioxide and water to do so. The product of this reaction is oxygen. So you can basically think of this process as plants taking carbon dioxide in and releasing oxygen. Because of a plant's ability to take carbon out of the atmosphere and store it, plant life is a really important part of the carbon cycle, which is basically how carbon moves between the atmosphere and the earth, whether that be in the form of plants, rocks, or water. Now, the problem we get when we burn fossil fuels is that all the coal, oil, and natural gases that were formed back during the Carboniferous era still have all the carbon from that time period in their molecular structure in the form of a hydrocarbon, which is basically what all of these fossil fuels are made of. And when a hydrocarbon is burned, it releases water and carbon dioxide as a byproduct. Now, the problem is, we just don't have the same capacity of plant life today that we had in the Carboniferous era in order to compensate for all of that carbon dioxide being released when we burn fossil fuels. Now, let's say, for example, there was a massive fire sometime in the Carboniferous that caused millions or even billions of tons of CO2 that was held in those trees to be released. Now, in that case, the remaining trees and the trees that ended up replacing the burned trees would be able to eventually take up the carbon that was released and bring levels of carbon in the atmosphere down because the ecosystem, in a sense, had the infrastructure in the form of trees to be able to handle all of that CO2. The thing is, the plant life that we have today just isn't enough to make up for all the fuels we are burning. Our global ecosystem doesn't have the infrastructure that it did in the Carboniferous. So we are quite literally releasing ancient carbon into the atmosphere that our modern planet just isn't prepared for and can't make up for. This leads to a massive increase in the CO2 levels of our atmosphere. Carbon dioxide is a greenhouse gas, which, unlike gases like oxygen or nitrogen, which makes up the majority of our atmosphere, will absorb heat and gradually release it over time, kind of like a hot brick in the oven after it's been turned off. It still retains that heat. Now, this leads to what we call the greenhouse effect, which is extremely important, don't get me wrong. Without it, we would be living in a constant ice age. But when these greenhouse gases get too concentrated, the amount of thermal energy that they are storing causes a significant warming of our climate. So when we look at trends of global temperature, we can see that while the sun's energy output isn't changing all that much, the global temperature is as we release more and more carbon dioxide and burn more and more fossil fuels. And that is really how we know that climate change is human caused, because we see temperatures rising while natural factors that could impact the climate are staying constant. The only thing that's changing is our behavior. Anyways, I hope this video helped you learn something or explain some confusions you might have had over climate change. Let me know in the comments if you have any further questions or if there are any other topics you want me to cover. Thanks for watching, and I hope you have a wonderful day.